some Earl Grey, hot.
Earl Grey here, and I'm having a La Guerre des Étoiles,
Ah, so yeah.
India Pale Ale, and it's Han Solo and who's that?
Is that Chewie? No, no. That must be.
That's Chewie,
That's Chewie. That's
and
Han
that's
Solo.
Han's Solo, and they're
Yeah.
clinking beers.
Ah, yeah. I'm sure they're
Which
making.
they probably did have beers, but they didn't show that. And,
Sure,
and
they're making lager.
I'm using my Damascus blade to. Whoop. All right. Cheers.
Well, cheers. So here we are in my
Here we
garden,
are, and yeah.
discussing sort of authentic flow in the moment and being ready for everything, and
Being ready for everything.
like preferably sort of right now. I mean, to be ready, you sort of need to be ready to move.
So you
So
you knew that was going to happen.
was that your notes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh look, I could use this.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I needed right now. What are the shenanigans? Receipts. And we were talking about Alan Moore, a favourite of mine, Alan Moore, and about people who like conspiracy theories. And I'm sure if you ever read this, you might be one of them or watch this. The conspiracy theorists like to think that somebody is in charge.
It's comforting. It's comforting if somebody is in charge, even if it's an evil reptilian overlord.
Overlord,
Kind of thing, then
that-
somebody's at least having some kind of plan, so I can relax.
That has a cat like this.
I can just sort of
has a
just
cat,
sort of
blue
petting
cat
it
like this.
all the time. Yeah, yeah. So as long as there's somebody like that, so it's more scary if there's nobody.
Yeah, and it's all random and pointless and
Yeah, then I actually, well, does that mean I have to do anything? I mean, it's the fear of that it's up to me to sort of save the world.
save the world. Well, we're going to do that, aren't we? That's the whole point of this video.
It might be saved, but maybe it's better saved to sort of
Well, I remember this,
surprisingly.
saving the world was the world, as if the world means the planet Earth doesn't need saving. But humans,
We need saving. Well, or do we? Well, I guess I'm less and less oriented in that direction, where I need to do something to save us from some bad path. I'm more and more okay with wherever it's going. So
is that recent?
that's more recent. Like otherwise, I felt a certain stress or pressure to have to come up with like my part of the puzzle. But there's something I'm here for that's needed. It's in part age, I think, but it's also that the world is so sort of messy and harder to save. That the things I was optimistic about are sort of less promising. Like just beginning of the internet, the 90s, it just felt just people connecting with each other and community, and you could talk with whoever you want. That in itself would like save the world.
A new civilization.
Yeah, it felt like just this networking would be enough. Like good people would find each other, work on the projects they want to work on, and do their part. And that didn't really do it.
I think we learned that plenty of good people out there with projects, and then often the ones living on the real extremes of society on the edges would be so experienced in their own work. That's all they could do. It's all they could talk about. They became so independent and unable to collaborate or cooperate that, that a lot of the old guard
Yeah,
are like that.
and that's sort of what I discovered, that a lot of people were maybe they had the right idea and the right project, but they couldn't talk with other people. So
Sorry,
then they got into a fight with people who had a different philosophy. That's not how we're doing our gardens.
Yeah. This is permaculture. This is what permaculture.
Yeah, so that kind of thing. So, I mean, the communication issue is important, but also we don't have to all agree. I mean, that's looking more and more silly. So I see things going to more towards a more multi-dimensional sort of thing where lots of things can happen at the same time
And coexist.
and coexist. And right now, lots of things happen at the same time, and it looks like that's gonna make it explode. But we might find a way of just so much stuff is happening that there's no point in fighting anything. You just sort of go and do what you find.
And you let
fun.
go and
Yeah,
find your own purpose and your own path, and
yeah.
don't get distracted off it by
Don't-
other people's
That
stuff.
they do it wrong or
Yeah.
something. So I think some are like AI, VR, things like that might go in that direction, that you can have whatever reality you want. Anybody can have the holodeck. So why are you gonna fight the people who play something else in their holodeck? That's like ridiculous.
Then it's connecting all the holodecks up, so
Yeah.
that you can say, "Oh, I'm going to wander through here for a while and learn something, and then I'll take that learning and enter through that door and
Yeah.
end up in someone else's reality. And oh, hey, what happens here? What are the rules of the game here?"
So you don't take it too seriously, which is sort of what often goes wrong. Is we think there's only one reality, one world, which in some fashion there is, but really there's lots of room for many ways of doing things. So if there's only one, then we have to fight about whose way wins, and
Yeah,
it's not
who's
about
one wins. Yeah,
it's not about anyone,
yeah,
but
so
it's
we can all
way.
win.
Yeah, that's what I think. So, but we're not going to agree to do that. So it's going to happen by some technology that's like just there's so many doors that go different places that like it's like silly to fight about which door is the right one.
My door.
That's
My
the door.
door.
Yeah, look,
That's the only door you can go
that's
through.
the door.
And have you got a key for it? Oh, it's great. I can do this now.
Yeah,
I
it
can-
opens and closes. Really has the right weight and feels good when it goes like click like a bank vault. Like
Saying that, I was in Ghent, which the French call Gien, or Gand, sorry, Gand. I think it's Ghent with an H, and went to the Van Eyck Museum, and there was a beautiful, heavy, like brass door. It's so fulfilling to hold it, and and in there, this amazing vault where the Lamb of God is held. This amazing painting that was completed in 1432. I remember the date. And up until now, that's what, almost 600 years. It's been moving around all over Europe. It was stolen by the Nazis. It was released by the medicine men, monument men. And there's a film made about that with George and Matt and others. And yeah, and there's a augmented reality in there, and you could see, of course, that augmented reality was created by the people that made all this thing, and a human guide might have been better because you could ask questions and say, "Excuse me, what's that, and why is that there, and why was it painted there?" And so humans will always have more. Well, maybe not. You could ask a computer, "Hey, can you explain this bit and that bit and that bit?" And AI would be able
Possibly.
to answer it. Yeah.
an AI could sometimes do that better. So, I mean, that's also something we talked about today. Like, what makes it really authentic? Like, if you can create anything, if AI can spew out limitless stories and pictures, like which ones do you really want to watch? I mean, if you watch the last several Marvel movies and they all have the same plot, they were made by humans, and still there's sort of there's nobody home. Kind of.
They're not interesting anymore.
Right. So it's not whether it's AI or human or anything. It's more like, does this have a heart or a soul? Or
A soul,
something?
is it in soul film? Yeah.
Is anything at home in it? Is anything really that needs to happen today? And you can't just generalize and say, well, everything that's natural is of course good and authentic, and anything that's sort of mechanical or fabricated is not. That's not necessarily the case. Sometimes an AI produces sort of better humanity than we do.
Well, interestingly, a friend of mine said that if we define love in a certain way, and I like the way he defined it. He said that love is caring for the past, present, and future of somebody or something. So the AI will know way more about the past because it has a perfect memory. So it knows more, and the more you upload to the internet, the more you share about yourself and say, "Well, I know that's what you did in the past."
Yeah.
And then it can help you in the present to connect with people with similar and it can predict your future, or it can create options for you to,
Yeah.
maybe you don't want to do this. So in a way, if that's the definition of love, it's nothing to do with like romance or things like that, then yeah. And there's some people, of course, will say, oh, that's not love. Love is a feeling, it's an emotion,
But
I'm not sure.
in some ways that can be better. It's sort of an unconditional sort of, I mean, whatever you want to do is fine, but here everything I know about you, and here are the things you can do, and so in some ways that's better. Well, I mean, this is the kind of thing we need to fine tune, find out what's love, what's
Because if the double, as they call it sometimes, a double of me would say, hey, you said to me this morning, call me Graham, and said, you said, make a note of all the negative things I say. And review, today you said 7 negative things. And often you said them in the presence of this person or when this situation arose. That's very helpful. That's learning from
that's good to know.
the machine, that's useful.
And no human would bother to do that, follow you around. And I mean, somebody would say, oh, you always do that whenever, but that's not so helpful. But the machine can sort of completely neutrally,
Yeah, because as I
unconditionally.
was saying, there's a lot of people who perceive that they know somebody. Even if you live with somebody, they don't know what's going on in your brain all the time. And if you share with the machine, you're talking to it and it learns, then it will say, well, I'm with you more than this other person and I know you better than they do.
Yeah.
And they're projecting their perception of you in the past onto you now, which is a classic mystical or thing that many wise people of the past have said. So the machine can say, well, I'm here with you now and I can test your heartbeat, your pulse, you're low in magnesium or you're low in this, and it can be much more of a help than a human can.
And in a way be more present, whereas most humans are really sort of replaying some program of their opinions about you or themselves.
Exactly.
Or they're talking about themselves, whereas like a machine could be more present with you in a weird way.
It's, I think his name's Jacob Boehm, who said that whenever you express something about somebody else, you're actually talking about yourself.
Yeah, that's really mostly the case. And particularly if you have a problem with them, if you're somehow offended by what they do, you're really talking about yourself.
And if you say, oh, this person's passive aggressive, well, it's because you are.
Yeah, that's usually the. Otherwise, it wouldn't really bother you. Then it's like, oh, that's interesting.
So if you're bothered by something about somebody else, that's them activating that part of you.
Strong sign that you suffer from it yourself. And that's probably not the case if it's an AI. I mean, it's not just...
Yeah, and it wouldn't care. It wouldn't have any kind of sense of...
Right.
And it's relentlessly, and it's tireless. It wouldn't tire of you saying the same things over and over again.
Yeah,
saying,
no problem.
Yeah. These chickens.
They're hitting our way.
Three chickens.
They think we might have some...
They're going to get on that trampoline.
Oh, they're going to be jumping in a moment.
If you could train those chickens to bounce on that trampoline, you'd make a fortune.
Yeah, maybe they can catch some insects. That's yeah, I'm gonna could perform
bouncing in slow motion.
Bouncing chickens, yeah.
This is now 13 minutes.
This is 13:31, yeah. Oh, 13:37. That's my sort of. That's my synchronistic number, like
13:37.
So people look for 11:11. I always see 13:37. That means elite when you in like hacker thing, like it used to be on a like pocket calculator or something.
Oh, right, that's elite. That elite.
Elite, so you're elite, yeah.
Elite.
Yeah, so that's elite. You're elite. That means you're a great hacker or something.
Well, I remember there's a game called Elite. In the past, this one of the first space games. It was all line drawings, and you had like a BBC microcomputer, and you plugged a tape recorder, and you plugged this cassette in, and then you played this game, and it was all, and you had to dock and planets and do trading, and that was the basic beginnings of. It's great fun. That game.
Yeah, it was. One could spend hours with that kind of thing. Today, it would seem a little ridiculous, but. It didn't take
That's
very
only
much.
1980, 80s.
Yeah.
It's only 40 years ago.
Yeah, it's not that long ago. So yeah, I've spent many hours on very simple.
What's your favourite game from the past that you remember?
Well, there used to be a game called Star Trek, which with the first computers, actually, I had it on my first interaction with a computer was in high school, 1975 or 76. My high school was rather progressive. They had a mini computer, an HP 3000. This was like 70, yeah, I said 75, 76. It had a hard drive, a 20 megabyte hard drive, which was like this, and you talked with it with a teletype that had no screen.
Uh-huh.
So it was like this big telex machine. So you would tell it to run this program. And one of the games you could play back then was Star Trek. And the idea of Star Trek was you got a grid of where it showed you some stars, and it showed you if there were any Klingons. They had a certain symbol. And you could have a long range radar to check the quadrants right next to you, so you knew that there was something over there, and then you could sort of steer the thing. So you would type, I forgot what you typed, like, but some number 1 to 9 or something to steer in a certain direction. You could fire the phasers, you could run the radar, that's all you could do. And so you could sort of figure out that there were some Klingons close by. I played that for hours and hours, and a few years later, 82 or so, it's one of the things I played on my first home personal computer, which was a Swedish ABC 80 with like a cassette drive and 16K of memory. So that also, I remember my father-in-law came over one day, and he ended up playing this all night. He was there in the morning when we got up. He had been playing Star Trek all night, and it's a ridiculously stupid, simple game now, but it hooks you.
Yeah. Well, I remember the ZX Spectrum and Jet Set Willie
Yeah,
and Manic Miner and Chucky Egg and Oids. There was a game called Oids, which was, that was the Atari, if I remember rightly. But those games, just playing them for hours, and yeah.
yeah. So somehow things need to be more complicated today, but it was perfectly captivating.
Like this video, you're
Yeah,
still watching.
yeah. So somebody's still watching. Now it's 1717.
So I'm driving to Barcelona today with a kitten called Bichi, who has been lovely and wonderful, and has come all the way from near Hanover.
She's been a good visitor here.
A good visitor, yeah, very good visitor.
Tried to get along with the other
Cats.
kittens, and they became a little closer. Now they can lie next to each other at least.
Yeah. Are there
And
cats in space? There's no cats in Star Trek now, is there?
no, I don't think there are any cats. Why don't they have cats in space that just sort of walked around on the Enterprise?
And just lay on the controls.
Yeah.
Oops, the cat's just
Oops.
pressed that button.
Warp 5. Oops,
Warp
what
5.
happened?
No cats or dogs. Although he does have, Picard has a dog called Number One. But he has that back in France in his
Yeah.
chateau. You know.
That's true. Not on the Enterprise.
Not on Enterprise, no.
Yeah. They should have pets.
Have you seen the new Picard? It's a new one out.
We've seen the first season. I think we started on the second one. I kind of like it. It's also a little sort of slow or something.
Yeah, it's a bit. They've got to make it certain episodes long, and
yeah,
the budget is huge.
And one thing that bothers me with it is like Star Trek is supposed to be the future where we don't need money or anything, and a lot of the plot evolves around like, well, how does he pay for a spaceship to do something illegal that he's not supposed to do, and the corruption of the Starfleet chain of command and so on. These kinds of things that should have been worked out in the future.
Yeah.
There's still some corrupt person in charge, and you still need to bribe somebody to get a spaceship to get out.
Well, it's pretty much America projecting itself onto the world.
Totally, and that's not. Since I'm a fan of the culture, I would want something where we really have transcended money and hierarchies and stuff.
Can you
like
say
that.
more about the culture, because they might not know what that is?
Yeah. So the books by Ian M.
Ian
Banks, sorry, I'm
which
saying his first name wrong. So the series of, I don't know, 10 books or so, which are all about the culture, which is where AI minds are sort of running things, but essentially it's a anarchic society where you can do whatever you want, and the AI minds sort of help you do it.
Remind me, it's called anarcho-socialism or something like that.
Yeah,
Luxury,
so fully automated
fully
luxury
automated
communism.
luxury communism.
That's pretty much what it is. So everybody's free to do whatever they want. In principle, you can't really get hurt if you don't mean to. Like if you, a robot will sort of pick you up just before you hit the ground if you like fall out of a window or something, and you could be revived and you're backed up and everything. But still, a lot of the interesting stuff happens on the edge of it. So some people choose to like go to other civilizations where they don't play by those rules, or to decide they don't want to like be recycled any longer.
Yeah.
It's time to die or something.
Well, is that the player of games was? I think it was Georgi or something like that. Someone was the main character who was a master at all the games, and in that world you could change your gender when you wanted, you could do this, and he was so bored.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about boredom being the mother of invention, as they call it. And so a droid comes to him and says, there's a game in this other world that we think you might be interested in, and it will take you 5 years to get there. Or something like that, and the ship will teach you the game as you travel towards it.
It's the most complex game ever.
Yeah.
If you win, you become emperor.
Of the galaxy, yeah.
If not, you'll die.
That's it. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And of course, not giving any. It's a spoiler alert here. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. He wins, of course. Otherwise, it'd be a pointless book.
Well, it's not a given, but it takes a while and a lot of cleverness along the way.
I can't remember much of it in terms of the detail, but I remember there's a very good twist in the tail when he comes back, because it takes obviously 5 years. He plays again and comes back. So he's away for 11 years. Yeah, but he took the risk.
Yeah, but what I like about it is, I mean, with most stories we humans tell, or many blockbuster movies, everything is at risk. It's sort of existential, like somebody's going to destroy the whole world with a nuclear bomb or something, or you're going to lose everything. And I'm sort of tired of that everything being at risk all the time. In the culture books, existence is never at risk. I mean, this you can always go back to like having the wildest parties on the planet, and being sort of reborn if you hit something too hard. That's never at risk. So you got to create the fun and the interest somewhere else. Whereas we humans tend to think, well, it's only really like in the player of games. Only if everything is at risk that it's exciting, and that's sort of bullshit. And that's maybe also why we've involuntarily created a society where everything really is at risk. We're about to sort of kill the planet and ourselves just to sort of feel engaged, and it's not even fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas we could, with our technology, have an abundant society where most of us were just sort of happily doing whatever we felt like.
Yeah, you could go any place in the world and go, oh, there's a very like Tokyo, amazingly technological, or Beijing or Shanghai. And then you've got places like in Italy or Tuscany where it's very, or parts of England where there's nothing.
And that's
there's
great.
There's no computers at all.
And and I mean, we can produce food and housing and everything easily enough. I mean, what gets in the way is our economic system, like the sort of built-in, somebody has to get rent out of whatever happens. There's a built-in growth imperative, or whatever it's called.
Capitalism.
We had to do more and more of everything, even if nobody wants it or needs it, in order to sort of pay back interest. Or
well, and in those indigenous communities, there's a thing where in some of them where the wealthiest people are the ones who give most away.
Yeah.
So you're sharing everything all the time, and it's like we share everything together, and it's easy. And then you just get up in the morning and say, what do you want to do today? And you just share what you want, and the AI systems just say, okay, you have available credit to do that, and if you want more credit to do that, you have to do these things, and these are things you enjoy doing, so you'll learn and grow and get credit to do other things.
I mean, most of us would prefer doing things that make somebody else happy, or that are fun or good for somebody or healthy or something. So it's just we've been indoctrinated into the system where it has to. So who's going to pay for it, or where's that going to come from, or you got to work hard for it, and things that are no longer really very necessary.
Justify your existence.
So I like that in the culture they've sort of done away with that. It's never the system is never corrupt.
Because it can't be, because the AI stops it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the fun and the risk happens elsewhere. I mean, if you want risk, yeah, then you go to some planet and leave your like communicator in your starship and do something stupid. I mean, that you're welcome to do that. But it's not going to put the whole society at risk.
Yeah.
It's too
There's
like
systems in place to
Yeah.
protect it. Yeah.
and I mean, it's sort of obvious. I mean, they make it work by having AIs that just happen to be benign enough. They've solved the problems we're worrying about how to make AIs that are could run everything but still be.
Well, of course,
benign.
this AI can do so much, and engineers would be able to. They'll do what they love. They don't need to be paid. They just love to do it. Oh, you want to work in a starship? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't want to be paid. I just want to be involved in it. If you want to be involved in learning about that,
Yeah, I think that can come quite naturally, but it's just, I mean, we train the AIs with what we do, with our normal way of doing things, and our normal way of doing things is often sort of cruel and senseless. So the question is, how do we let the AI evolve without picking up those very human traits of being
Who programs it?
vengeful
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shall we stop there?
Yeah, I think it's a good
That's
place.
a good place. At 27. Well, it's come up to 27.
33 kind of thing.
We stop at 27. So
Yeah,
we'll just sort of do some
probably a
filler
good
at the
place, so
end.
we'll just
Thank you, everybody.
We'll just sit here and wait for time to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll probably, if we sit still enough, then it will just fizzle out by itself.
Just very slowly move the finger.